Okay, hello everybody. Thank you all for joining us. We're going to go ahead and get started. I do want to let everyone on the panel know that I am in a room of about 40 people, so I'm going to let them all say hello to you. We'll say hello in 3, 2, 1. So 3, 2, 1. There's about 40 of them. So you cannot see them, but they can all see you on our screen. I'm going to change our view so that as the panelists speak, they'll be able to see your face up on the screen. So what I want to do first is just some quick introductions for our students and for our instructors. So for our 4 alumni, if you wouldn't mind telling everybody what your name is, when did you graduate from Lake Erie College, and what your major was, and then what you're currently doing, whether you're in school or if you're working somewhere, if you could let us know where that is. Whoever wants to go first.
I'll go first. My name is Joe Fath. I graduated from Lake Erie College in 2011. I double degreed in psychology and theater, a BA in psychology and a BFA in theater. And I'm currently teaching adjunct at Lake Erie College, as well as being an outpatient therapist at a foster care agency.
Thank you.
Okay, my name is Ellen Darby. I graduated from Lake Erie in 2016 with a biology degree, and I am currently an intervention tutor for Pymatuning Valley Middle School.
Thanks.
My name is Summer Crouch. I graduated in 2019. I was a psychology major. Currently, I work in the registrar's office as a transcript coordinator. I also work as a resident director for student life. I'm a social work intern for the VA in Willoughby, and I'm a master's of social work student at Cleveland State.
Thank you. Oh, JD, I think you're muted.
You there? Can you hear me?
Yes, thank you.
All right. My name is JD Ingles. I graduated from Lake Erie College in 2012 with my undergrad in business administration and sport management. I also graduated with my MBA in 2013. I am currently Associate Vice President, Investment Officer at Wells Fargo Advisors, where I work with high net worth individuals, families, and small business owners managing their investable assets.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you all. So if you could just maybe take a few minutes, and I also wanted to highlight, since there are 4 of you, if you don't have a response to a certain question, don't feel free or that you have to answer that question. We can just, take the answers that we get and move on, because we do have a long list and a lot of questions from our group. So don't feel compelled to answer every question if you don't want to. But could each of you please take a few minutes to describe the academic and career path that led you to where you are now? So maybe some classes that you took while you were here, and maybe what you did immediately after college that kind of brought you to where you are now.
I can start. So when I entered Lake Erie College back in 2015, I was actually a biology major. And for about 7 years prior to starting college, I wanted to be a PA, so a physician's assistant, and I wanted to do the program here. Well, then I took chemistry, and that changed a lot because I'm not good at chemistry. So then I knew that I wanted to help others, and I pretty much didn't have any idea what to do. So I took Gen Psych, and it just kind of clicked. And then my senior year, I asked Dr. Collada, I was like, hey, can you do an individual investigation, which for those of you who do not know, it is a class that is not offered at Lake Erie College. But if you have a professor that's willing to teach you, you can do, it's a one-on-one experience with them. So I wanted her to do one in an intro to social work class so I could learn about social work. And that kind of pushed me into wanting to go and get my master's of social work, because that was just the next step in order to be able to practice. With a psychology degree, I needed to go on to get my master's degree.
I'll
So
go next.
for,
Just
go
kidding. Go ahead.
ahead, Joe.
Okay. So when I came to Lake Erie College, I wanted to be an education major. My senior year of high school, I was fortunate enough to take a class that gave me a skeletal overview of the education system. And I realized that I liked helping people more than I liked educating them. And that's what led me to get my degree in psychology. And I actually attended Lake Erie College a fifth year, and I had taken enough credits so that my fifth year, all I needed to take were like a couple more classes to get my BFA in theater. And so I completed that as well. After that, I worked as a mental health tech at university hospitals for 3 years, as well as directed theater at Fairport Harding High School up in Fairport Harbor, Ohio. And I realized that my love of theater was just as much as my love of psychology. And I went on to get my master's in clinical mental health counseling, and that led me to kind of where I am today, teaching adjunct and being an outpatient therapist.
And then for myself, I started out at Lake Erie thinking that I would eventually go to law school. I had a love for sports, which I started at as a sports management major, which would then eventually lead into a contract lawyer, which sports attorneys are typically contract lawyers. After a couple of law classes, I realized it definitely wasn't for me, and I needed to make a pivot. I didn't really know exactly where I wanted to go, but I knew business was definitely in the right direction. I always thought maybe I'd want to own my own business or have more control of my career. So I did take a liking in entrepreneurship. I played baseball at Lake Erie College. I was there for 5 years, which did allow me to get my MBA degree. After college, I pretty much went straight to Wells Fargo. After talking with a couple of other advisors that I knew, it just became something that I knew was a way I wanted to go.
Awesome. Thank you.
Okay, when I started at Lake Erie, I thought I wanted to be a veterinarian, hence the biology degree. Midway through my college career, though, one of my personal animals, actually, I took steers to our fair, tore my shoulder, so I could no longer work with the large animals that I wanted to work with, which left me kind of, I don't know what I'm going to do with my degree now. I did finish, and then that summer, a friend of mine at church said, hey, you have a bachelor's degree, and we need substitute teachers. Have you ever thought of working in education? And I was like, yeah, absolutely not. Nope. Have not wanted to work in education ever. But I did end up speaking with my county and getting my subbing license. And turns out I really like working in education. So I subbed for a couple of years. The beginning of my third year subbing, third or fourth, I was offered the position I have now. So I went from subbing within this district, a lot of long-term subbing. So I had the same classroom for 12 weeks at a time. And then they offered me the intervention tutor position that I had last year and also this year. So major change, but I'm very happy with it.
Thank you. I think everyone in the room is wondering what the sound is in the background. Is that a rooster?
Yeah, that is a rooster. I came outside because inside there are parrots, but outside there are roosters. There's also a lot of goats. As it gets closer to their feeding time, you may hear the goats yelling. There's animals in both places. I don't know.
That's wonderful. Very entertaining. It's fun for you.
And a cat.
Oh, and a cat.
Yeah, and a cat.
Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
So all of you, you're getting some laughs from the kitty. So thank you all for sharing your stories. It sounds like all of you actually had some pretty interesting moments that kind of shifted your thinking. It's interesting to hear that a lot of you started out in one major and then ended up, changing. What would be one piece of advice that you would give our first year students here at Lake Erie when it comes to choosing a major or starting to figure out your path? A lot of them are just getting started and have maybe chosen a major but not sure if it's right for them. So do you have any advice on how to navigate that?
I would say my advice doesn't really revolve around what major you choose and which direction in terms of education you want to go with, but more so getting out and growing your network, get involved with what the school has to offer, the community has to offer, whether that's finding some sort of volunteer effort that spikes your interest, because you never know when you're going to meet some person that is going to have a substantial impact on your life. So the ability to grow your network is never going to hurt you in the long run.
I would agree. That was my same piece of advice. Get involved, experience different things, get to know people, because it's sometimes, and I don't think all the time, but sometimes it's not about what you know, it's who you know. And if you know someone that can get your foot in the door, then you can get people to believe and talk to you about what you know. But until you have that, sometimes it's pretty difficult if you haven't networked and created that.
Thank you.
My piece of advice, I'm going to steal from Harry Potter. A quote from Professor Trelawney, broaden your mind and use your inner eye to see the future. The reason I like this quote is because it really encourages us to look inside of ourselves, to see what our future is going to be. And to that end, the advice that I would give is if you find someone who is that master coach that caters to your ignition, using words from the text, stick with it. Like, be with that person and use them and let them be your mentor and eventually your friend. That's always a great experience.
Also agree with definitely networking, and being open to the fact that it might change. Like, I spent 20 years thinking I was going to be a veterinarian, and that changed and it worked out. So sometimes when people offer a slightly different path than you're expecting, it's not necessarily a bad thing to try that something else.
Thank you all so much. I do find it interesting that a lot of you changed your path.